All praise, all glory, all honor most certainly due to the Most High, the God of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and peace to you in the name of Jesus. This is your brother Elisha Israel of the household of faith. And I count it truly a blessing each and every time that I can come before you to preach the word of God. Never do I count it as a light thing to do so. All right, brothers and sisters, I want to get right into today's topic. And this is a disclaimer right now. If you haven't noticed, I care nothing about political correctness. Okay, I care about what thus saith the Lord, because what can be deemed as politically correct can be totally antithetical to the Bible. And if it's antithetical to the Bible, then that means it's wrong. Okay, so this is one of those issues that I'm dealing with today because of what I see in society. So I see things in society and I relate it to the word of God. And one of the things that I'm seeing amongst our people in particular, who I'm most concerned with, to be quite honest with you, is certain ideologies that we take upon ourselves that actually are to our detriment. And one of those ideologies is feminism. Now, there's no one definition of feminism, but on the surface, one would say that feminism is basically the advocacy of women's rights so that they can be equal with men, right? Now you got degrees of radicalism when it comes to feminism, right? You know, some would even ask the question, are men obsolete? All right. But one thing that I'm speaking to women specifically, everybody in general, but women specifically, when you call yourself picking up the Bible, you need to put feminism down. I'm going to say that again. When you call yourself picking up the Bible, you need to put feminism down. Why? Because it is antithetical to the word of God. Understand what the word of God is. He gave us a way of life. Okay? He gave us a way of life, and that way of life is in part is a patriarchy. It's not women-led, it's a patriarchy. Okay, biblical patriarchy is what you see throughout the Bible. And the divine order of things is man, woman, and child. No, the Bible says that children will be oppressors and women will rule over you. That is out of order, which is what you see in our communities, which is why you have so much destruction in our communities. Even when you look upon how we got in the situation we are as a people, scattered into slavery. Because Israel is a black people that have been scattered into slavery all over the world. What do you see? It's the spiritual failure of men, because men are the spiritual heads of households. Men are the spiritual leaders. Men are the leaders of people, period. That's just what it is. You have examples, you have like Deborah, but if you look at this Bible, if you look how things are set up in the household, if you look how things are set up spiritually, you see men at the forefront. You don't see women teaching. You don't see women as the priests, right? You see this divine order over and over and over again. Man, woman, and then child. Okay? That's what it is. But see, what happens is that people come into the word, and they bring all of that baggage from America, all this Europeanized, westernized, all these mindsets into the word, right? And then can't understand why they got turmoil in their household, because you didn't leave that baggage outside. You didn't leave that baggage outside, and that's a problem. And I want to pick out several things. Like I said, I'm not pulling no punches. So if you don't like it, oh well. If you don't like it, oh well. But I'm not pulling no punches. And I want to point out some things that you see feminists. You can see several things that feminists basically fight for that are detrimental to us as a people. One of the biggest okie dokes amongst the black community is when black women went on the side of white feminism. Okay? Because they got involved in a conflict that was between their white husbands, and then use black women as a tool, as a pawn, like black folks are often used as a pawn to push forth their agenda, right? To get things that they felt that they were deprived from their man. But you have to ask yourself the question, what did black men deprive black women of? Nothing. Nothing. Because as far as who had rulership in society, ultimately it was white people in general, men and women. Okay, so black women were not deprived something specifically from black men. That's asinine. But then you say, well, we're going to come up with our own form of feminism, right? But ultimately, again, even that is antithetical when you read these scriptures, right? And it's out of order. It's out of order. So I want to pull out 3 or 4 things that you see consistently with feminism. And one of the things you see is a woman's right to choose, right? Or the right to have an abortion, to have control over her body. You see that perpetuated in feminism. So you see a woman's right to choose. You see complete liberation from sexual morality, right? We're in the era of slut shaming, right? As being wrong. And we're in an era where you have slut walks. Okay? So you got woman's right to choose, a complete liberation from sexual boundaries and morality, freedom from traditional gender roles in marriage. Those are the things you see. Okay? And all that's contrary to the word of God. So what I want to start with first is a woman's right to choose, right? So what you're seeing today, and another one you see consistently, I want to point out also, is amongst feminism is the perpetuation of lesbianism. So you got abortion, lesbianism, the breakdown of sexual boundaries, and the breakdown of gender roles. All that's antithetical to the word of God. So let's look at this first one. And I want to look at some statistics from the CDC. Okay, and it talks about abortions. Now understand, this is from the surveillance summaries. This is from November 25th, 2016. Now the latest statistics they have are from about 2013, right? Because they're years behind. And understand, they don't get all of the abortions. Okay, they don't get all of the abortion statistics. So they don't have a complete breakdown of all the abortions that take place in the country. I'm not talking about illegal, but I'm talking about those that are legal. Okay, they don't even have all those. But it says a total of 664,435 abortions were reported to CDC, that's the Center for Disease Control, for 2013. Okay, so that's in total. That's in total. So America, since Roe v. Wade, has killed blacks, white, Latinos, etc., have killed more than 50 million babies. Okay? Now, let's look at the rate for black women. It says, among the 29 areas that reported cross-qualified race ethnicity data for 2013, non-Hispanic white women and non-Hispanic black women accounted for the largest percentages of abortions, 37.3% and 35.6% respectively. Now, black women, now you gotta understand, black women have aborted, have 35% of abortions. So black people have accounted for approximately 17 million or so abortions. See, we talk about black on black crime. You break that down, isn't that approximately like almost 1,000 or well over 900 abortions a day? You see, we are not dealing. We talk about black on black crime, which is a problem, don't get me wrong, which is something that you find as a problem ultimately because, for one, men are not in the households. Men are not in the households governing the households, right? And you see, and when did you see black men leave the black household? You saw black men leave the black household during the rise of the welfare state. You saw that mostly during the time when men were told to leave the households, right? When they were trying to get welfare. But you got to ask yourself the question, how is it that we allow such an atrocity to take place amongst our people when 35% of all abortions are from black women having abortions? See, that's a problem. That's a problem. And it's not your right to choose. You don't have the right, right to privacy. That don't mean you could just murder somebody. And like you say, you in your house. I'm not talking about somebody that broke in, just somebody that's living in your house. You could just kill them. You can't do that. You don't have the right to do that. But you can say it's in your body. Well, hey, listen, the one that's in your body has life. You don't have the right to take that life. It's not just, they come up with names like fetus. No, it's a life. It's human life. And the Bible tells you this. Let's go to Jeremiah, the 1st chapter. Jeremiah, the 1st chapter. And we're going to pick it up at verse 1. Jeremiah 1 and verse 5. So here it's talking about, Jeremiah is talking about the word of the Lord that came unto him. In verse 4, Jeremiah 1 and 4 says, then the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. And before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee, and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations. Okay, so he's talking about Jeremiah in this case. So he was ordained to be, from the womb, he was going to be a prophet of God. See, that's another thing about abortion. You don't know who you're killing. You don't know who you're killing. Because you are committing murder. Because you understand the Bible, it's not written, thou shalt not commit adultery, but what you do see and what you should understand is that the sacredness of human life, even in the womb. Let's go to Psalms 127th division. Psalms 127. Matter of fact, before we do that, let's go to Exodus 21. Exodus 21. Because even though it's not said directly, it's shown. Exodus 21 and verse 22. Exodus 21 and 22. Here we see in the Torah, we see this law pertaining to if men are in a physical altercation and in the process of them fighting one another, a woman who is with child gets hit. Right, and then she gets hit, or something happens to that woman where that child, based on their physical altercation, that child is brought forth. Let's see something here. This is Exodus 21 and verse 22. It says, if men strive and hurt a woman with child, so now they're battling one another, and they hurt a woman who has child in her, so that her fruit depart from her, so that now she's forced into labor. It says, and yet no mischief follow. He shall be surely punished, according as the woman's husband will lay upon him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. So now the judges, right, would determine what will be the monetary, the financial penalty for the man that caused this woman to be forced into labor. But it said no mischief follow, meaning she didn't have a miscarriage, right? Or the baby didn't die. But let's see what happened if the baby died. It says, and if any mischief follow, meaning if the baby died, it says, then thou shalt give life for life. You understand? See, that's life in the womb. And we talk about Baltimore, we talk about Detroit, we talk about Chicago, we talk about St. Louis, we talk about Los Angeles. We talk about these cities, these urban areas where you have all this violent crime amongst our people. Yeah, that's a problem. But I'm telling you, the biggest problem of violence and murder is in the womb of the black woman. That's where most of the murder is taking place. Like I said, I'm pulling no punches. If you can go get offended, I got more for you. You might as well leave now. You might as well turn it off right now. Go to bed or go watch something else. Because that's where most of the murder, it's a silent genocide. And I've been talking about this for years, even wrote a book about it called Killing Black Innocents. There is a silent genocide going on. It's destroying our people. It's destroying the most vulnerable of our people. Those that are in the womb. And they are being sacrificed, like I always say, on the altar of convenience. Because people oftentimes, advocates, feminists oftentimes, or people who are just lost in the sauce would advocate abortion rights. And they would say, well, what about incest? What about rape? First and foremost, the vast majority of abortions are taking place with women who basically feel that a baby is not convenient. And why is a baby not convenient? A lot of times because these women are not with the man. And it says they are not in a committed relationship. They laying down with men, right? Making poor decisions and then aborting the children, right? They're in college, they're in school, they're having a career. So they justify it. They justify killing their seed. There's no justification for that. You can't justify that. You can call it a fetus all you want to. It's a human life. Let's go to Psalms 127. Psalms 127. And you can't. Psalms 127. Let's see what children are to God. This is Psalms 127 and verse 3. It says, lo, children are an heritage of the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is his reward. See, we read about the fruit of the womb in Exodus, right? And what would happen if that child died? Life for life. You understand? That's his reward. So who are you to say who can live or who can die? Even though, you say, well, it's your body. Well, let me tell you something. If you didn't want that baby, you should have not been sexually active, because that's what sex brings forth. You can't justify it. I challenge you to look at the rates of abortion for rape or incest. They are minuscule. Or even threat to the mother's life. They are minuscule. Minuscule, because people are not having abortions, because the vast majority of people having abortions are because a baby is inconvenient. And some kind of way you have been convinced, largely through your leaders. When you look at the history of Planned Parenthood, right? Largely through your leaders, you have been convinced that this is okay. So you got Negroes right now, advocates, perpetuating you need to vote Democrat. And trust me, I'm not saying you need to vote Republican, because your answer is not in the vote. Because listen, if you really look at the history of even the Democratic Party, first of all, they have been extremely detrimental to black people, of our people. But nevertheless, you advocate voting Democrat when it's like one talk about is advocating killing you in the womb, another one is talking about killing you when you get out of the womb. I'm talking about both political parties. You can't justify that. You cannot justify that. It says, lo, children are the heritage of the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is his reward. That's human life, and with so much potential. You don't know who you're killing. Just like they were trying to kill Moses. Well, they weren't trying to kill Moses per se, but then again, on a spiritual level, you don't know. But you know that the children at that time, the Israelites during Moses' day, the male children were under attack. Same thing with the Mashiach or the Messiah, the Christ, during his day. So you don't know who you're killing. And one thing you are killing is power. Because power is in numbers. Power is in numbers. One reason amongst many that China is on the rise and that they're becoming a powerful nation and that they are a powerful nation. One main reason is because of the 7+ billion people on this planet. 1.3 approximately or 1.6 are Chinese. That's power, just sheer numbers. You look at what the Latino community does. You look up the Latino community, everything be written in Spanish. They having babies. They having babies. You come one generation, it's all black. Next generation is Latino. And they say they have passed blacks as the largest minority. Whether you believe that or not, you understand that their numbers are increasing. Power. We, on the other hand, have been convinced to kill our children. We kill our children in these abortion clinics with these doctors and then want to march when somebody get killed in the street. I'm not discounting that. I'm not discounting police brutality. I'm not discounting the violence that we do, because ultimately I'm not one of these people that say, you know, like white folks want to say, what about black on black crime? No, they not. They are complicit actually in our destruction. Because of even though we sin against God, we understand that we were cast into slavery. Ultimately, while in this diaspora, they helped forward the affliction. They have done things that they are going to pay for, right? But ultimately, we as a people, as a nation, because we are a nation in a nation, we have to do that which is right. We can't continue to kill our children in the womb and think the Lord's going to bless us. That's asinine to think that. The nation, America shouldn't think that you can continue to raise hell all over the earth and then on your own country legalize abortion, same-sex marriage. No, it's going to fall. The wheels are going to come off this thing. Let's go to Psalms 139th division. Here we see this Psalm of David. And here he says something. This is Psalms 139 and verse 13. It says, for thou, talking about God, it said, for thou, or the Most High says, for thou hast possessed my reins. Thou hast covered me in my mother's womb. See there. That's a sacredness that could pertain to the fruit of the womb being acknowledged as life prior to being born into the world. If you really think about this, and I challenge you to look at the majority decision in my book, Killing Black Innocence, but if you look at the majority decision of the Supreme Court, they said that it's not for them to determine, or who knows when life begins. Well, embryologists know when life begins. They know when life begins. It begins at the moment of conception. There's even a bright light at that time. Scientists have proven that. When at the moment of conception, you're bringing life into the world and ultimately bringing life into the world that has the potential to be God. Ye are God's children of the Most High God. You read, I believe, Malachi, when it talks about you coming forth, man and a wife, to bring forth what? A godly seed. That's what the institution of marriage is for. And it is through the institution of marriage that the child has the best opportunities to thrive. But you see all this illicit sex amongst people, period, because this is a hypersexual culture we living in. But the Lord didn't make it to where we were supposed to be just having illicit sex. Because you're having illicit sex, now you're having babies. Now that's when it just got real. So you was having fun coming out the club, you was a little tipsy, you done met somebody you think look good. Now it's time to play, but it's all business when somebody get pregnant. It's not a game no more when somebody is expecting. Because now you got a life that you have to take care of for at least 18 years. Hundreds of thousands of dollars for one child. So, you know, you say, well, I don't think that's convenient. No, what you should have did is have some morality. It's time. You got to be accountable. And I'm going to say this to sisters in particular, because you have to be especially more accountable in regard to who you laying down with, because you bear the brunt. You bear the burden of the child. So why you laying down with Nuck, he wrong, but understand, he gonna be gone. See, he gonna be gone, and you gonna have a child, and you gonna be looking at him, that child, or her, that child, and then he gone. See, that's what I'm saying. You bearing the brunt of that. And then you go say, well, I'm gonna just, since he not here, or since I don't have a real relationship with him, first of all, I shouldn't have laid down with him. Second of all, you compound that by committing murder. That's what it is. It's murder. So it says in Psalms 139:13, for thou hast possessed my reins, thou hast covered me in my mother's womb. You see what he says? It says, I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are thy works, and that my soul knoweth the right well. He said, I'm marvelously made. And it is a marvel. A child coming into this world, a child being formed and to be birthed, is really, truly a miracle. It says, and it's a beautiful thing. My substance was not hid from thee when I was made in secret and curiously wrought in the lowest parts of the earth. He's talking simply again about the womb. But let's go to, matter of fact, I want to go to Hebrews 13, because this goes right along with the next part about feminism that you consistently see is the complete liberation of sexual boundaries and morals, right? So now you see, basically, there used to be an extreme stigma attached with a woman who was sexually promiscuous. But now under feminism, the idea is to take that stigma away. Hey, and you saw a lot of that with the free love movement of the 70s, and it's being perpetuated today in this culture that we have. A quote unquote slut shaming. Listen, I'm gonna tell you something. If you why should you not be ashamed of letting any man, all these men running up in you? I mean, like I said, I'm not pulling no punches. That is something to be ashamed about. I'm gonna tell you something. A woman was made for one man. Say that again. A woman was made for one man. We're gonna see that alluded to in the scriptures, but you also could just look simply at biology or the anatomy of a woman. A woman is made for one man, not a whole bunch of men. Not a whole bunch of men. But you got these women now, they having babies, don't know who the father is. And then they want to find a simp and make him the father, clean up their mess. Like I heard somebody told me just the other day. He said, man, found this woman, you know, she got several kids and she's a queen, you know? I said, wait a minute. First of all, who told you she a queen? Second of all, how many kids does she have by how many guys? And what does she want you to do? Like I said, I'm not pulling no punches. I can't pull no punches. I can't pull no punches. She having all these babies out of wedlock? Why? Because some kind of way, we done came to the point where it's okay. I'm talking 15, 14, 13-year-old girls having sex. What are you doing? You shouldn't be doing that. Let's go to Hebrews 13. Hebrews 13 and verse 4. Because all the boundaries have been broken down. And you might say, well, why are you on the women today? That's what we're dealing with right now. Number one. And number two, you bear the brunt of all of this. And that's one thing. So when you come into the knowledge of the truth of God's word, don't bring that with you. Don't bring that mindset with you that you were dealing in the world with. It's time to leave that behind. Because a lot of times people don't know. But when they know what I'm saying, you still dealing in the same way. You still dealing with the same thing. You got the same kind of mindset. You got the same kind of attitude. You're making the same mistakes. It's time to leave that alone. This is Hebrews, the 13th chapter and verse 4. So now this is now understand, this is talking about specifically man. With the other part, he's talking about he's going to judge. It says marriage is honorable in all. So marriage is honorable. What goes on between a man and a woman sexually, that a man and his wife sexually, is honorable. Meaning that's allowed. It says, let me qualify, not letting other people into that very act. I'm saying between that one man and that one woman, it said marriage is honorable in all, and the bed undefiled. He said, but whoremongers, which are men, and adulterers, which are men, God will judge, because a whore is a woman and an adulteress is a woman. So he said he's going to judge. He's going to judge. So understand, marriage is honorable. Right? Not you laying down with just anybody, but that's what feminism puts forth, right? Let's go to Exodus, the 22nd chapter, to show you that this shouldn't be the case. Exodus, the 22nd chapter. Exodus, the 22nd chapter. Woman was made for one man. Exodus 22, and we're going to pick it up at verse 16. Exodus 22 and verse 16. It says, and if a man entice a maid that is not betrothed and lie with her, he shall surely endow her to be his wife. Okay, so first and foremost, it said if a man enticement or he lay with a woman that is not betrothed, meaning she's not betrothed, is like she betrothed, like she's going to be married to a man. They may have made a commitment, but they haven't consummated that marriage, right? Because if they had consummated that marriage, then that would have been adultery. But understand, if somebody's engaged and somebody sleep with that person, understand God treats that just like adultery. So that would have been a capital punishment, a violation that warrants capital punishment. Just like when Joseph thought that Mary had been dealing with somebody else, they were betrothed, they had not been married, he was gonna put her away privately. Because if it would have been known, it would have been like that woman who was caught in adultery. When they brought her to the Messiah and said, hey, she's been caught in the very act. But understand, the adulterer and adulteress was supposed to be killed. That's why he said he who's without sin, let him cast the first stone, because they were hypocrites, because if he had caught her in the act, you know, the man was there and the woman was there, both of them to be stoned. But in this case, it says if a man and a woman have consensual intercourse, not betrothed, he says, then he should take the steps to make that woman his wife. Okay? Not that she is his wife at that moment, because it says he shall surely endow her to be his wife. Now he has to go to the father because he's making a misstep. See, even back in the day, a man would go to a woman's father. See, you are out of pocket when you do this, because that woman is, first of all, under her father's house. Shouldn't no man just be sleeping with no woman that's not his wife. That woman is under her father's covering. So it says, if her father utterly refused to give her unto him, he shall pay money according to the dowry of virgins. But you hard pressed to find a woman that's a virgin today. I'm talking about young women. He said, if her father utterly refused to give her unto him, meaning he don't want him married, now he got to pay a dowry of virgins. Okay, so you weren't supposed to just sleep with somebody. Let's expound on this a little more. Let's go to Deuteronomy, the 22nd chapter. Deuteronomy, the 22nd chapter. We're gonna pick it up at verse 13. Deuteronomy 22 and verse 13, because here in the Torah, it's expounded upon a little bit. It says in verse 13, Deuteronomy 22 and verse 13, it says, if a man take a wife and go in unto her and hate her. Oh, excuse me. Actually, let me be specific. We want to expound on the idea that a woman is made for one man and that virginity should be cherished. Because that's one thing. With the law, you get culture. From the law comes culture. The culture right now is hypersexual, right? It's lay down with everybody and anybody, right? And then if you don't like what happens after that, right, which is a baby, you go and abort the baby. That's the culture we got right now amongst our people. But actually, it's set up. Even when you look at, let me go back. Even when you look at Exodus 22, you can tell that the idea is that you're supposed to only have sex sex within the confines of marriage. And if something happens where it takes place on the outside of the confines of marriage, you have to now take the steps to make that woman your wife. So if that was the culture, right? And if you had judges by which you had to bring things to, or things they were judged, and you had these laws in place, these laws would bring culture, and then you would have some order. See, things are totally and completely out of order. Totally and completely out of order. So now she just sleep with everybody. Men just sleep with everybody. No, that's not how it's supposed to be. So now here we see that a woman was supposed to be, like I said, a woman was made for one man. This is Deuteronomy 22 and verse 13. It says, if any man take a wife and go in unto her and hate her, and give occasions of speech against her, and bring up an evil name upon her, and say, I took this woman, and when I came to her, I found her not a maid. Now, wait a minute. What is that saying? A maid. He's not talking about she wasn't going to clean up. Right? It's not talking about that. She didn't wash my clothes. No, it's talking about he took this woman to be his wife, and she was not a virgin. See, that was a problem. That was a huge problem. We're going to keep reading. It says, then shall the father of the damsel, that's the father of the damsel, and her mother, take and bring forth the tokens of the damsel's virginity unto the elders of the city in the gate. So what are tokens of virginity? This is the bed cloth that was put down on the bed when that marriage was consummated in the first act of intercourse, when the hymen was broken and the blood would flow on that sheet. That was a token or a sign to show that she was indeed a virgin. Okay? It says, and the damsel's father shall say unto the elders, I gave my daughter unto this man to wife, and he hateth her. Right? And lo, he hath given occasions of speech against her, saying, I found not thy daughter a maid. So he's saying he didn't like her for whatever reason, and he's saying, hey, she's not a virgin. But he said, and yet these are the tokens of my daughter's virginity. He said, but this is a sign that she was a virgin when they got married. And they shall spread the cloth before the elders of the city. And the elders of the city shall take that man and chastise him. Now the elders are going to punish. They're going to bring forth the judgment, and they're going to punish him. But see, we have no, because we're not sovereign to a degree, and we're not really following it. Even I'm talking about even people that are so-called in the word, we still, oftentimes being in the word is, I'm Israel. That's it. They say that, but they don't really understand if you Israel was given a way of life. It's time to start following that way of life. Right? And there has to be ramifications for bad behavior. See, this is thinking like a nation. There has to be at least some stigma, some ostracizing when this takes place. So it says, and the elders of the city shall take that man and chastise him, and they shall immerse him in 100 shekels of silver, and give them unto the father of the damsel. Now he had to pay the father 100 shekels of silver, and it tells you why. It says, because he hath brought up an evil name upon a virgin of Israel. Now, to be a virgin was an honorable thing, right? That's an honorable thing to be a virgin. You saw that with Jephthah's wife. You saw that with daughter. You saw that with David's daughter, right? That's an honorable thing. Where's the honor now? Now there's no honor being a virgin. They're not saying It's, you know, you notice you're not hearing people saying it's an honor to be a virgin. They're not saying that. They're saying, hey, stop the slut shaming. If you really consider that. If you really consider that. See, and that's because ultimately, like I say, things are out of order. Because things are out of order. That goes along with, quite frankly, feminism. Right? I'm gonna give you an example, and I want you to ponder on this for a second. In this country right now, in this country, a man, and I obviously advocate that a man take care of any children that he has. But if a man has a child, he has to go to his wife, his woman, or whoever will put him on child support. Right? And you need to take care of your kids. I'm not advocating. The Bible say, he that provided not for his own house, not for his own, especially for those of his own household, is worse than an infidel, which is a non-believer. Right? So this is not me saying you don't have to take care of your kids, but understand where we at right now when it comes to feminism. A man has to pay child support. Right? Go to the court, pay child support. He don't pay that child support, he be locked up, garnished wages, passport taken, license revoked, all kind of stuff. Right? A woman could kill her child in her womb with no repercussions. I'm talking about from the law of man. You understand? That's where we at right now. That's where we at right now. But nevertheless, it says he may not put her away all his days. So his hate of this woman, they say, hey, this still gonna be your wife. You can't put her away, man. You can't divorce her. Because listen, understand, one of the two things you had to have, right? Either, right, you as a wife, you had to show that you was a virgin, you had to have tokens of virginity, right? You couldn't just go from man to man. And then if you went to another man, right? Or if you weren't having a bill of divorcement, you had to have something. So now he said you can't put this woman away all the days of her life. Otherwise, verse 20, but if this thing be true and the tokens of virginity be not found for the damsel, meaning, she wasn't a virgin. It said, then they shall bring her out. Verse 21, then they shall bring out the damsel to the door of the father's house. And the men of her city shall stone her with stones that she die, because she hath wrought folly in Israel to play the whore in her father's house. So shalt thou put evil away from among you. So now it says you were supposed to stone her if she wasn't a virgin. You think about that today. You think about what's going on. You ain't got to go amongst women 20. You ain't got to go to college. Go to some of these middle schools and go to some of these high schools and see what these young sisters are doing. 15 years old, 16 years old. Listen, I'm going to tell you the sad truth. I'm going to tell you a sad truth of what's happening right now. You go, these young women are becoming sexually active. Statistics tell you about 16 or so years old, 16, 17, around that time. So many of our sisters are not going to be married, period. Right? So they 16, 17 years old. They live 17 years old, 10 years from now, they're 27 years old, approaching 30, no prospects of marriage, and they look back and they got 30 men they looking at. That's not supposed to be. We have to change this cycle. We have to create the culture through the laws that cherishes a woman being a virgin. Because of all the problems, we're going to talk about more about these problems. We already talked about one, which is unwanted pregnancies. We're going to talk about some more dealing these problems, again, one thing with sin is built-in consequences, not just the lake of fire, right? Not just hell, but it's hell on your way to hell, right? It's turmoil and pain and struggle and strife on your way to hell. But you're going to let these, quite frankly, this white culture tell you that no slut shaming. No slut shaming. A woman should be have sexual freedom and have no boundaries, no morals. It's to your own detriment. It's not good. It's not good. Let's go to Deuteronomy, the 23rd chapter. We're going to pick it up at verse 17. Deuteronomy 23 and verse 17. Because here he tells you point blank. Deuteronomy 23 and verse 17, it says, there shall be no whore of the daughters of Israel. Now, a whore can be a prostitute, or a whore can be a promiscuous woman. Either way you go, you shouldn't have either one of them. It said, there shall be no whore of the daughters of Israel. Then it says something, nor a sodomite of the sons of Israel. But when you look at our communities, that's what you see. You see a bunch of whores and a bunch of sodomites. I'm not pulling no punches. Again, if you don't like it, you can leave. And I'm not reading the board. I never read the messages while I'm doing this. So but I will say, if you on there leaving 5-page or 4-page letters of this disdain, right? You upset, you're gonna get blocked. Right? Again, if you don't want to hear this is not for you, leave. I don't know why you would waste your time. Let me get sidetracked a little bit. I don't know why you would waste your time leaving messages on here. Why would you do that? If people don't believe in God, don't believe in Bible, but they come on here leaving all these messages. Like, I'm gonna read that. Delete. You wasted your time. You could have been getting carpal tunnel doing something else. Let's go to Proverbs, because he said there shall be no whore of the daughters of Israel, nor a sodomite of the sons of Israel. Let's go to Proverbs real quick. Proverbs, the 7th chapter. Proverbs, the 7th chapter. Because another thing, like I said, slut shaming. We're in the era of slut walk. We want a woman to be able to walk down the street. And this, I'm not pulling no punches. Here's something else to ponder on. A woman could dress, and don't get me wrong, you do whatever you want to do. But a woman can dress extremely provocatively, right? But then why you got to think, why are you doing that? This is an attention-driven society. You don't believe it? Look on Facebook right now. And you ain't got to go out in the world. You go out and look at so-called believers, female, and look at consistently taking pictures of themselves. And a lot of times the pictures, you're not even modest. I ain't talking about somebody don't know. I'm talking about somebody who's supposed to know the word. Not modest, and you doing all this stuff. Want some attention. You want some attention. And a lot of times that dress is sexual. Why are you doing that? You want a man's attention. But nevertheless, you got in the world now, you got women who will dress extremely provocatively, I'm going to just say it, dress like a whore, but then get upset when a man approaches him and says, hi, how you doing? Now, don't get me wrong. Hey, what's up? Whatever he say, right? I'm not justifying no man cussing you out when you don't like what he said. I'm not justifying no man following you or threatening you or invading your personal space. I'm not even, I'll be honest, I don't think men should even, in today's climate, you shouldn't even be approaching a woman, like, period. Especially, first of all, you won't approach no woman that's dressed inappropriately, for one. But you gotta, what I'm saying is you gotta be real smart in how you moving. You don't want to necessarily be in the elevator, just you and some woman. You walking in the elevator, you might want to take them stairs. You might want to rethink somebody at your job. Like I'm saying, you can't just do any and everything. But a woman could dress any type of way, and if she doesn't like the attention because it's from somebody who she doesn't necessarily find attractive, now that's harassment. But the same attention can come from somebody who she thinks is attractive. Now that's cool. My question is, if you, first of all, you got to really think about that. You dress like a whore, but then you upset when somebody say something to you. That's just like I said on here before. If you dress, if I walk outside, right, which I'd never be a police officer, but if I put on a policeman's uniform and I'm walking down the street and somebody getting shot, somebody gets shot, and I start running the other way, and somebody else run, they say, "Hey, officer, officer," they shooting over there. I'm like, I'm not no officer. What you doing? Why you say that to me? You be like, because you got the officer uniform on. I thought you was an officer. Oh no, how dare you say that to me? I'm not an officer. That's the same way these women sound. Again, pulling no punches. You don't like it, go somewhere else. That's the same way you sound. How dare you talk to me like that? What you mean? Look how you dressed. How they supposed to treat you? You ain't supposed to look at you and say, "Oh, this sister here must have some great character. It must be really intelligent." Even if you were intelligent, they not thinking about your intelligence. Why? Because your booty is showing. Your legs and thighs and breasts are showing. You need to cover yourself up. See, everything is out of order right now. Everything is out of order. People, even back in the day, you know, you came in a false church like that, man, they would check you real quick. Now you see they coming everywhere like that. They coming on a job like that. They coming to the schools like that. They shopping, getting their groceries like that. They getting on the train and the subway like that. They coming in the church like that. Not covered. No discretion. This is Proverbs 7 and verse 10. Now, I want to read this here because this to show you that your dress tells what you are. This is Proverbs 7 and verse 10. It says, "Behold, there met him a woman with the attire of an harlot and subtle of heart." So now attire is clothing. She had the clothing of a what? Of a harlot or a whore or a prostitute or a promiscuous woman. See, the dress goes along with the action. The dress goes along with the action. So I got a fireman suit on, and I'm walking down and say, "Hey, it's a fire over here." What you asking me for? What you telling me about that for? I get offended. Man, listen, if you look like a whore, you should expect for men to treat you like that. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying what your expectations should be. So you mean to tell me you want to have a society where you dress, and like if you see these slut walks, some of them women that had no clothes on. I didn't see it, heard about it, read articles about it. These they ain't practically nothing on. You want to walk in society, and what are you gaining from that? Right? And don't get me wrong, I don't believe no man should be offensive to a woman in any kind of way. A woman shouldn't be attacked on the street. A woman shouldn't be sexually assaulted. Men shouldn't be saying crazy things to women at all. But at the same time, men or women should not be dressing like that and expect that not to take place. That's asinine. That's asinine. And that doesn't excuse, that don't excuse what men will do. Genesis 38. But how you dress says something about you. Genesis 38. And you can take it or leave it. Pulling no punches. Genesis 38 and verse 14. So now this is Judah and his daughter-in-law. Now listen to what it says. It says in verse 13, "And it was told to Tamar, saying, Behold, thy father-in-law go up to Timnah." This is this is Genesis 38 and 13. Genesis 38 and 13. It says, "And it was told to Tamar, saying, Behold, thy father-in-law goeth up to Timnah to shear his sheep. And she put her widow's garments off from her," because she was a widow. She was married to his son. Son died. He was supposed to, when the one son, another son died, right? The Lord killed him. They were wicked. He had another son's going to wait, because right now, right, in this instance, you seeing, let me just say this. Israel had it set up to where women were covered one way or the other, right? So in order for the benefit of it, let's say a man had a wife, she died with no child. That child, one of the brothers will take that widow or near kinsman. That's what you read about in Ruth, and take that widow as his wife, raise up seed in his father's name, in his brother's name. Both are taken care of. Okay. So that was supposed to take place here. So she had what? She had on, now understand, she had on clothing that showed she was a widow. Okay? Then she has on, then it says she covered, it says she put off her widow's garments off from her and covered her with a veil and wrapped herself and sat in an open place. Okay? I'm going to skip down to verse 15. When Judah saw her, he thought her to be an harlot because she had covered her face. You understand? So he looked at her and he thought she was a harlot because she had covered her face. Right? So it's about what you wear in part. Let's go to let's see. Let's go to 1 Timothy 2. First Timothy 2. First Timothy 2. And we want to pick it up at verse 9. Because the Bible clearly tells you how you're supposed to dress. You got to see that whole attention-driven mindset that you see amongst many women in general, right? So you want some attention from me. If you just think about what people wear, they wear yoga pants, right? They wear everything skin tight. You are hard-pressed. I challenge you. Do a count. Just I ain't talking about going to no club. Don't go, I ain't talking about going somewhere on spring break, right? I'm talking about just go to a supermarket. Count how many women are dressed modestly. Count 20 women. How many are dressed modestly and how many are dressed with no modesty? The vast majority, if you count 20 out of 20 probably gonna be dressed without modesty. See, I'm gonna tell you something. You shouldn't be first of all, you shouldn't be showing or seeing parts of a woman's anatomy. Those things should be covered up. Those things need to be covered up. Okay? Even tight things where you shouldn't see every dent and wrinkle. No, have some class. Have some modesty. And the Bible's telling you that. This is 1 Timothy 2 and verse 9. It says, in like manner, also that women adorn themselves in modest apparel. Not yoga pants, not skin-tight jeans, modest apparel. And you need to think about the type of clothing that will perpetuate modest apparel. It says, with shamefacedness, that's godly fear and sobriety, not with broidered hair or gold or pearls or costly array, but which becometh woman professing godliness with good works. Okay, so now so it ain't saying a woman you can't braid your hair. What it's saying, that broidered hair, or you can't wear gold. What it's saying is that should not be your main concern. Ultimately, you want to have a certain type of character. Let's go to 1 Peter. 1 Peter, the 3rd chapter. 1 Peter 3 and verse well, actually, let's go to Titus. Forgive me. Let's go to Titus. Because he talks about it there in 1 Peter, but let's go to Titus. that where I want to go? No, you're right. First Peter. First Peter. My bad. Excuse me. First Peter. I'm gonna pick it up at 3, and I'll just pick it up at verse 1. Well, verse 4 actually. Then I'll go to verse 1. It says, but let it be. Well, he says, verse 3, whose adorning, let it not be the outward adorning of plaiting the hair and of wearing of apparel or putting on of apparel, but let it be the hidden man of the heart, in that which is not corruptible, even the ornament of a meek and quiet spirit, which is in the sight of God of great price. Okay, so now that's how you should adorn yourself, right? You should have good character. If you focus on character, you understand, you know, if you can't be how you dressing sexually at the same time. See, they don't go together. Then I want to go to the next thing, which the next idea is the freedom from traditional gender roles. It's particularly in marriage and gender roles, period. Okay, well, I'm gonna just since we in First Peter, we might as well read this. It says in verse 1, likewise, ye wives, be in subjection to your own husbands, that if any obey not the word, they also may without the word be won by the conversation of the wives. So he said, women, God, he said, you of God, you need to be in subjection to your husband. Okay? And that's you read that, people say, yeah, you know that, but ultimately you're not seeing it being done. And ultimately that puts a burden on the man, really, when you understand, because it all falls, as far as a lot of the responsibility falls on you. So it says, so let be in subjection, that you might even be, that the man who doesn't believe perhaps may be won over through her way of life, right? Then it says in verse 5, for after this manner in the old time, the holy women also. So now he reverted you back to the old time about some holy women. He said, who trusted in God, adorn themselves, being in subjection unto their own husbands. So he put it with verse 4 when it says, but let it be the hidden man of the heart, in the which is not corruptible, even the ornament of a meek and quiet spirit, which is in the sight of God of great price. See, that's what a woman should be. Then it said, for after this manner in the old time, the holy women also, who trusted in God, adorn themselves, being in subjection unto their own husbands, even as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord, whose daughters ye are, as long as ye do well and are not afraid with any amazement. Right? So, first of all, a woman is supposed to be in subjection to her husband in all things. I know that's hard, especially when you coming from our people in particular. There's a dearth of men, or a famine for men. You have a bunch of males, not true manhood. Now you got some men not taking care of their responsibility. But then, quite frankly, you just got some women who basically their mindset is they don't want to do this, period. It don't matter what kind of man they got. He can be godly man, he can be righteous, he can be doing what he's supposed to do, take care of his family, and she don't care. She just want to do what she want to do. But understand, you're going against the divine order that God set forth. Okay, he made a male and female in the beginning. He made man first, brought the woman out of the man, and then the man named her. And then he told you later on that he will rule over you. I know you don't want to hear that, but that's the reality of the situation. It's a straight patriarchy. It says, likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge, giving honor to the wife. So you said give honor to the wife, but then he says something, as unto the weaker vessel. See, your woman, you don't say she's stronger, the stronger vessel. She's the weaker vessel. It's man, woman, and child. It's not woman, child, man. It's not child, woman, man. It's man, woman, and child. It's being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered. See, he's not telling you that everything's equal. It's not saying that. Now, am I saying a woman can't be as smart as a man? No, I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that it's man, woman, and child. What I am saying is a woman's supposed to be in subjection to her husband. This is Colossians. And it might be one of the things, you know, a lot of people don't want to hear, because ultimately they're here, but they don't, it's not really, they're not really doing, they're not willing to live according to it. But you are in error. This is Colossians. We're going to pick it up in Colossians, the 3rd chapter, and verse 18. Again, this is the order. It says, wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands as it is fit unto the Lord. Then it says, husbands, love your wives and be not bitter against them. And children, obey your parents in all things, for this is pleasing unto the Lord. This is the divine order, Ephesians. That's the divine order. See, it's not, okay, we're going to be equal in everything, because ultimately, when it's all said and done, if this is the case where you are equal totally, what happens? Who determines when you have a decision that needs to be made, right? That needs to be made and you don't agree? Which way you gonna go? You go with who it can see at that point. You got, hey, we 50-50 in this thing. Wait, if you 50-50, how you gonna determine which way you going from this point? Because you don't agree and that person don't agree. Y'all can't move. I'm hypothetically. Y'all can't move until a decision is made. Y'all not agreeing. No. It's whatever that man say he gonna. Now, if that man is wrong in this sense, and I'm not telling you, he's talking about sinning against God. I'm talking about like any type of decision. We're gonna move somewhere. I give you an example. I give an example how things crazy, people crazy. I know somebody personally, he makes 6 figures, and the woman he want to marry makes very good money. But you know why they ain't together? Way in different states. They ain't together because she have a child, and the child say she don't want to move. How in the world a child gonna determine something? How you gonna tell me as a child you ain't got no house, you don't pay no bills, you need to close your mouth? How in the world a child gonna say, I don't want to move? You can take now if you want to, if it's your decision, you know, I'm talking about in the household. You say, well, I'm asking my child what they want to do, but you want to move and they want to move, but the child don't want to move. You've lost your mind. Who, like I said, it's man, woman, and child. It ain't child, then man, then woman. The child determining, well, how you gonna live your life. These grown people, and I'm talking grown. These people older than me. And they letting a child determine something. That's why you see that oftentimes. I don't want to get too sidetracked, but you see that a lot. People asking children questions and letting them make decisions they ain't got no business making. Why are you asking that child? That is a child. They don't know any better. Like you determine everything about what this child is going to do. No. Shouldn't do that. Ephesians 5, and we're going to pick it up at verse 22. Ephesians 5 and verse 22, it said, wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands as unto the Lord. Then it said, for the husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church, and he is the savior of the body. Therefore, as the church is subject unto Christ, so let the wives be to their own husbands in everything. That's clear. We read this over and over and over again. He likens it to how the church or the people are supposed to obey God. That's how you're supposed to obey your husband. Then it said, husband, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for her. So a lot of times we'll read that, both parties will read that and say, so we equal. So basically, you do this, it say you do this, it say you do this, but neither one of them are doing anything. He not loving her like Christ loved the church, and she ain't obeying. Let's go to Titus. Let's go to Titus. Titus 2 and verse I'm gonna pick it up at verse 3, because you see this amongst our people. I'm even seeing this amongst Israelites, right? You'll see women trying to teach. They had a panel, they sitting down, they teaching something. Man, what you doing? The Bible says, I suffer not a woman to teach nor usurp authority over a man. But there is something you do need to teach. The older women, the elder women do need to teach. This, and I know this sounds like, man, you sound archaic. You sound no, what I do believe in is the Bible. And the Bible shows me a biblical patriarchy. That's what I believe in. 100%. So this is Titus 2 and verse 3. It said, the aged women likewise, that they be in behavior as becometh holiness, not false accusers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things. So these women, these older women that have some age on them, hey, it say, hey, do those things that become holiness. Don't be false accusers, keeping a mess. It say, you shouldn't be in that drunk. You should be teaching good things. And what should they teach? It says that they may teach the young women to be sober. That's sober-minded. It says to love their husbands, to love their children. Give them some direction. Impart upon them the wisdom that you should have gained after years of living. But now if you're 65, 70 years old, and you still acting the same fool that you did when you were 27, that's a problem. It says, as far as teaching them, it says to be discreet, chaste, keepers at home, good, obedient to their own husbands. See, that's what they should be. That the word of God be not blasphemed. Right? The Bible's not telling you that general, that everything is equal. Who told you that? You really, when you think about it, people are not, you don't see true. When I mean true equality, what I mean, like, people at different levels. So at your job, here's another thing. You talk about submission, here's another thing. You will see a woman who will go to her job, she'll have a boss, might be a European man, she'll submit to anything he say on that job, right? Submit to anything he say on that job. She'll go do this, yes, that laughing all in his face, being submissive. Then, but when she come home, she not submissive to her husband. See, people talk about like what you ain't gonna. I'm not gonna follow no man, but you go on a job and follow somebody. Even if there's another woman, your woman involved. Okay, you listen to them, but you won't listen to your husband in your own household. And I ain't talking about some deadbeat. I'm talking about just a man that's doing what he's supposed to do. Y'all decide, you gonna work, he gonna work, right? That's crazy. And then you got women who saying, oh, I'm just independent. I do what I want to do, right? Again, idea feminism. Don't you understand that there's an interdependence? That's what's being put forth amongst our people. That's our culture. Everybody being dependent upon one another. Who's really, truly independent? And that whole mindset ultimately is why, quite frankly, many of our sisters not getting married. It's a mathematical numbers thing too, but it's also a mindset. It's also a mindset. I want to go to this one part here, what you constantly see in feminism, and that is lesbianism. Okay? The perpetuation of lesbianism. You know, again, the whole idea, we don't need men, period. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. But let's go to Romans 1. And there's a lot of different reasons for that. But Romans 1. But you're seeing this everywhere. Romans 1. I'm going to pick it up in Romans. Romans 1. I'm talking about you seeing lesbianism everywhere. Romans 1, I'm going to pick it up at verse 18. It says, Romans 1 and verse 18, it says, for the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness. What truth do they hold in unrighteousness? The fact that there is a God. It says, because that which may be known of God is manifested in them, for God has showed it unto them. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen. Now, what is he talking about there? He's talking about the creation. See, the creation is a testament to that. It testifies to the existence of God. You read that in Psalms 19. It says, being understood by the things that are made. What was made in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. It says, even his eternal power and God here, so that they're without excuse. So man is without excuse. If you know there's a God, the next logical step is to find out what this creator, what this God, what this sovereign entity requires of me. See, that's the next step. But people want to deny the existence of God, because if they acknowledge the existence of God, they will have to ultimately deny their flesh. And people don't want to do that. It's much easier in their mind to simply deny the existence of a God and adhere to or follow pseudoscience, right? Or ideologies. You know? Even you got Negroes walking around here talking about the black woman is God. Not saying that she had a potential to be God, like she'll be resurrected, but no, she God. You crazy. This is so basically what man did was, it tells you that he ultimately started worshiping things that were not God, right? It said, because that when, verse 21, because that when they knew God, they glorified him not as God, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools, and changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like to corruptible man, and to birds and four-footed beasts and creeping things. So now they dealing with idolatry. But then something else. It says, verse 26, for this cause God gave them up unto vile affections. So now, because they didn't turn their back on God and their mind, their foolish heart is darkened, now they're dealing in all kind of falsehood. And they dealing in illicit behavior, sexual behavior. It says, for this cause God gave them up unto vile affections. For even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature. So now you got women dealing with women. You got lesbianism. And why am I talking about this? Because ultimately, again, our people, quite frankly, have fallen for the okie doke. We have fallen for the okie doke. And I want to show you a prime example of how we've fallen for the okie doke. This is from Black Lives Matter. This is from their site, from one of the main sites, Black Lives Matter. When you look at what they believe, I'm gonna read some of the tenets of their belief, if you will, and you'll see ultimately that this is not, first of all, Black Lives Matter, this movement, so to speak, it sounds good, right? Black Lives Matter. But when you look at the tenets of belief, they basically are discounting that thing where which bring forth black life, which is man, woman, and child within that unit. And it is perpetuating feminism and lesbianism and homosexuality. This is these are some of their tenets. It says, we acknowledge, respect, and celebrate differences and commonalities. All right, that sounds good, but let's get down to the, well, I'm going to read a little bit of this. It says, it says, we intentionally build and nurture a beloved community that is bonded together through a beautiful struggle that is restorative, not depleting. Again, it sounds good, okay? But then it says something here. We are guided by the fact that all Black lives matter, regardless of actual or perceived sexual identity, gender expression. Okay, so wait a minute. Then it talks about economic status and religion, immigration status, and location. So wait a minute. You done turned it into this mishmash of different things, and then it gets into what it's really about. We make space for transgender brothers and sisters to participate and lead. Okay. Now wait a minute. How you transgender? If your mindset is the fact that you believe that you're a man when you're a woman and you're a woman when you're a man, you need to sit down and get a clue, because biologically you are what you are. We make space for transgender brothers. Again, I don't care nothing about being politically correct. We make space for transgender brothers and sisters to participate and lead. You can't lead nothing. You shouldn't be. How you gonna lead a people that's destroyed and you destroyed in your own mind? How you gonna do that? That's just like for all this foolishness that's being prepared. And a lot of that was pushed through the door during the Obama administration. Negroes ran out to vote for him, and he pushed forth the homosexual agenda. And even when you look at it, I heard about one. This was a school in Atlanta. One boy, he came. You see the transgender thing in the schools. One boy said, "No, you know what? He said, I'm trans penguin." And the boy, he said, and they tried to stop him because they were letting boys wear dresses and girls wear whatever they want. So he said, "Man, I'm trans penguin. I'm gonna wear a penguin suit to school every day." And you know what? They tried to argue with that boy. You know what? I think he lawyered up, and they had to allow that boy to wear a penguin suit to school. He said, "I'm trans penguin. I'm wearing this penguin suit." That's where we're at right now. But nevertheless, it said we make space for transgender brothers and sisters to participate in the league. Then it says we are self-reflexive and do the work required to dismantle cisgender privilege and uplift Black trans folk. Now, this is your Black Lives Matter movement. Everybody wearing these t-shirts don't know what they believe. Especially Black trans women who continue to be disproportionately impacted by trans antagonistic violence. If you think about when you start to hear about Black Lives Matter and certain things that were going on, when it's specifically about police brutality, one thing you'll notice if you continue to read this is somebody's absent. Males, heterosexual Black men are absent from this. And that's who, quite frankly, you could take it or leave it. That's who need to be your leaders. Period. It said we build a space that affirms Black women and is free from sexism, misogyny, and environments in which men are centered. Right? So that's, again, now, like I said, women put down feminism and pick up the Bible, right? If you dealing in the Bible, you got to put down feminism. And this is feminism. Then it says we make our spaces family friendly. Right? So now they say family, but we see the divine order of the family is what? Man, woman, and child, right? But then they say, and enable parents to fully participate with their children. It sounds good, but in the next sentence, it says, we dismantle the patriarchal practice that requires mothers to work double shifts so they can mother in private even as they participate in public justice work. You notice who's absent is men. We disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure requirement by supporting each other as extended families and villages that collectively care for one another, especially our children, to the degree that mothers, listen to this, to the degree that mothers, parents, and children are comfortable. Notice it didn't say mothers, fathers, and children. It say mothers, parents, and children are comfortable. You see that? Then it goes on to say, we foster a queer affirming network. When we gather, we do so with the intention of freeing ourselves from the tight grip of heteronormative thinking. That's heterosexual thinking. We're going to get this. We just get rid of that. We free ourselves from that. That's the last thing we need. That's the last thing we need. Because I'm here to tell you. If you could take it or leave it, women are the spoils of war, and feminized men are no threat. I'm going to say that again. Women are treated as the spoils of war. If you're at war with an enemy, if you're really going in on an enemy, it's the men that need to be in the forefront. That's fighting for their women and their children. It says, when we gather, we do so with the intention of freeing ourselves from the tight grip of heteronormative thinking, or rather the belief that all in the world are heterosexual. And it says, unless she, he, or they disclose otherwise. Well, that is the norm. But see, this, because again, why am I reading this? Because this is the kind of foolishness that people fall for. This is the foolishness that people fall for. So, brothers and sisters, that's feminine. You really got to think about, you know, when you hear about these ideologies, in particular, this one we're talking about today, which is feminism, you really need to really think about what it's saying and what it's perpetuating, right? Especially if you're in the Word, and line up any ideology with what thus saith the Lord, and see how a lot of times you'll see conflict. You'll see things that are, you know, antithetical. They don't mesh together. They don't mesh together. On the surface, it'll sound great. A lot of things sound great on the surface, but when you peel back that onion, when you peel back the layers, you see things that are not to our best interest. And I just want to read something else to you. This is not in the scripture. This is some things I didn't go over. But right now, I was talking about illicit sexual behavior, which is something that feminism puts forth right now. As I speak to you, illegitimate births, so births of children outside of wedlock are upwards of 77%. And this one right here is this one from 2012. This is the latest statistics on the illegitimate birth from National Review is 73.2%, but I believe it's actually higher than that. So outside of slavery, it wasn't that high. But now it's the norm. We got to break the cycle. We got to break this culture where you got 70+% of our children born outside of wedlock. And then you wonder why our children in the condition they are in. You wonder why we're impoverished. It's a direct correlation between being married and being impoverished. And all these things in regard to children, whether you're talking about educational attainment, whether you're talking about whether they're going to end up incarcerated, whether they're going to be impoverished, all those things are related to whether or not their parents are married. Okay. Also, HIV amongst African-American women is through the roof. It's through the roof. Sexually transmitted and amongst, it's rising the highest now amongst gay black men. He said there should be no whores or sodomites amongst Israel. And you've seen the built-in consequences for it. Also, what's this other one? Something else I wanted to read. Oh, I didn't print it out. But also the rates of syphilis are through the roof. And other STDs are just through the roof when you look at the statistics. So all those are built-in consequences, again, from a particular mindset that is detrimental to us as a people. What we need to do as a people is honor, have some dignity, have some. We can't act like the rest of the world. Really, that's basically it. We can't be like the rest of the world, and we have to again extract our culture from the Torah or from the law. It tells us how to walk, how to talk, how to eat, how to dress, how you deal with sexuality, all these things. It tells us these things. That's the beauty of God's word. And with that, brothers and sisters, I want to say peace to you. I pray that you were edified and hope that you enjoy the rest of your Sabbath.